Hi everybody, Beth here from Access Paranormal. For this week's I Want to Know, which are all about the pitfalls of when it comes to investigating possible paranormal phenomena. There are lots and lots of great advice out there when it comes to the type of pitfalls that people have. And when I mean pitfalls, it's kind of a sort of a colloquial sort of term where, it's actually more about the fact of, the advice of what not to do or things to keep in mind. So I'll keep in that as well. Hi Kelly, good to see you, beautiful one. So of course I look slightly different in this angle because I'm actually going to be switching the camera around soon on a little bit of a snippet of a presentation that I've been giving recently, probably over the last year possibly, and obviously recently at the time of this recording at the Frightfully Good Weekend with Anne and Renata, which was awesome in Hobart and Tasmania. Thank you to Tasmania's Most Haunted again for that. It was fabulous. The team are brilliant, and it was a great weekend. So much fun and just all about community and learning, which is what inspired me for this. Hi Jackie, hi Belle, hi Jim, good to see you guys. So we've all got some fantastic advice when it comes to the things that we've learned over the years when it comes to possible paranormal phenomena and investigating it as well, but also just from being an investigator. It's really important as well. I'm so glad Jackie's chiming in all the way from the Cornwall area of the UK. So it's good to see you here, Jackie, as well. Oh, Charmaine, excellent. I was just talking about you, beautiful. And Peter as well, and Brooks here too. Oh, good. So yeah, so this might seem a little bit familiar. So apologies for those who have actually seen the presentation over the weekend and have seen this particular talk as well in the past. But it's just such a really important part when it comes to investigating to remember as well. So I wanted to as well. So before I do go into the actual two that I recommend when it comes to the pitfalls and things to kind of keep in mind when it comes to investigating possible paranormal phenomena. Hi Kat, hi. There were some great comments that people also mentioned as well. So I'll read a couple of them out. I know I couldn't remember off the back of my mind. I know terrible, isn't it? I'm really slipping. So one of them was Dan McMuff, and he said, if you're going to show off your evidence on social media, then you must be prepared for criticism. But there is a difference between constructive criticism and hate. And if you can't back up your contrary views, then it's hateful comments. And that was a big thing out of all the comments that came out from this particular topic when I posted about it. The biggest thing people were saying is, like, if you're going to post something on social media, you've got to be ready to back it up. You've got to be ready for those kinds of comments. And, kind of at least give some insight into why and how you've actually posted this particular thing. So I was actually quite surprised. It was more about, if you're an investigator and you're posting things on social media as opposed to actually being on location. I think a lot of people just learned so much from seeing other people go through it and also for themselves as well. It's not a pleasant experience at the best of times, but that's how we all learn. There is a blog that I put out recently about dealing with a very, very angry, cynical skeptic when it came to not actually me posting anything, but me actually adding them as a friend, and then obviously things eventuating. So if you are interested, head over to the accessparanormal.com website and look under blog, and it was a very interaction. I've actually got screenshots of that as well. So that's it was a learning curve that I have known over the years, but I wanted to be able to make it an example and explain it as well. So it's not one of my pitfalls, or I must admit it felt like it at the time. So there's that. Jock also actually made a really good comment as well. He said, I know a couple of groups that simply remove comments and ban the person who posted them. After all, it's their page. Respectful criticism is fair enough. And in my opinion, that often the groups posting the evidence are too quick to dismiss genuine criticism. So he makes a really good point there. So there's a fault on all sides. It seems difficult these days to have a genuinely respectful discussion about parties resorting to mudslinging, no matter what business or area is being discussed. It's not confined to paranormal topics. And that makes a lot of sense as well. Hi, Mel. Hi. Oh, good to see you, Claudia. So it's, there again, it's another bit of advice about social media and how it can actually affect when you're a paranormal investigator and if you're posting anything out. But being respectful of other people who also post information. Respectful doesn't mean dismissive. Respectful doesn't mean that you have to agree with it, but there's ways in which you can do it. And again, one of the blog posts I have created recently goes into the way in which I dealt with this particular individual, as abrasive as they were. Roz also said, if you can't hack criticism or people's opinions, don't post. Again, that's really, really very viable. I know it seems very simple, but literally, if you're somebody who feels a bit sensitive, or you're very, very 100% about what it is that you feel that you may have captured, and I use that term loosely, be really, really wary about, not everybody is going to see the same as you. They weren't physically there at the time. You are going against that, and it's a battle in that sense. You've just got to be ready. Just ready yourself. Not the fact that, every man and his dog's going to be throwing crap at you, but you've just got to be ready for the fact that not everybody's going to agree, and how you're going to deal with that particular response as well, from a professional perspective and also a personal, because screenshots are there for everybody to see, and be really, really careful about that as well. All right, so, and also Kat mentioned as well the word evidence. I tend to feel that this is where the terminology such as evidence should be avoided. To call something evidence is to claim objectivity, but without proper, repetitive, or large data sets to back them up. It falls short of its definition. So in a nutshell, Kat's saying, if you haven't got the stuff to be able to back up your claim, then be really wary about what you post. Be wary about what you say. If you say, I feel this, I think this is a spirit, then okay, how have you come to that conclusion? What were the environmental conditions like? How many times have you been back there? Have you gone to be able to look at plausible explanations? Things like that. So she makes a very, very good point. There's also a blog I also have up on the website accessparanormal.com, which talks about whether we actually should even use the word evidence when it comes to paranormal investigating, because I personally really avoid it as much as possible, because evidence means substantial, and that's what Kat's trying to say there as well. So great point there, Kat, as well. And also John Flanagan also said that not testing the evidence for non-paranormal explanations. Secondly, not doing in-depth research on client and location. So again, making sure that what you've put forward is something that you can actually back up and say, yes, I've done this and this and this in the meantime as well. And also the fact that not doing enough research, and that's really, really important to be able to do research on the client. And research on the client can be anything from the location the place is at, because a lot of people believe that anything that's possibly haunted could be what's happened there previously that could be causing it, but also research on the types of people that are living there, the family dynamics, if you're able to get the information about their health conditions, or if they're on medications, which is rare because not everybody likes to reveal that kind of information. Those kinds of things are really, really important as well. So I'm going to flip the camera around. Hi, Karen, good to see you here. And we're going to have a snippet of this particular presentation that I give, and it gives you some ideas. So there's two pitfalls that I think are the main ones. There are so many, as I said, some great advice there already, but these are the two major ones, I think. And I fight with this every day myself. I think it's important to remember that we're human, we're built to survive, and this is the reasons why. So I'm going to flick this around when I find the right button. There we go. All right, here we go. 2 things to be aware of, the pitfalls, for those who were at the presentation over the weekend. Apologies if this is repeating, but maybe it's good to keep it in one's brain. So here we go. 2 pitfalls. There is a face. What am I talking about? Here. Now, obviously, that's capsicum that's been cut a certain way. Clearly, it's not screaming its head off. But from the looks of it, you can see that it gives the impression that with the shapes that it has, our brain is interpreting it as really scared capsicum. I mean, if I was cooking, it would be equally as scary. Now, you may not see this straight away, so I'm going to move the camera up a little bit here. So as you can see, there are children's faces in this woman's knees. And we clearly know that that is physically impossible. It is not the case at all. Unless you watch those amazing horror movies on Netflix at the moment, it is definitely not going to happen. There is no way in God's green earth there is going to be children's faces in her kneecap. She needs to go to hospital ASAP. But the shape and the shadow of those kneecaps gives the impression that she is pretty freaky. And of course, there's another example. A grumpy looking tree. Now, a lot of people who are very spiritual believe that trees have feelings and things like that. That's kind of cool. But this grumpy looking tree is not a grumpy looking tree. Well, it is a grumpy looking tree, but it's actually not grumpy. The way in which it is formed is giving us the impression that there is a face there. So this is what these examples are all about. the fact that we know for a fact that there is no reason why there'd be any type of face in any of these particular pictures. No, that was not an orb, that was dust. Just saying. And because of that, but our brains are programmed to look at faces, because faces are the most common thing we see. They're the most common thing we see as individuals. And not just that, it's also the fact that a friendly face meant you were safe and a non-friendly face meant you were unsafe. So that's why we will see faces in things. Yes, I will mention the O word, orbs. That's a big thing as well. I do also believe there's people that have actually seen orbs without faces in them with their very own eyes. I think, to me, it has more credibility as opposed to possibly being in a photo. But that's why the shapes within orbs can actually look like faces and can give the impression that it's actually a possible spirit entity coming out, when in fact it's actually just the way in which it is actually shaped. So we are built to survive. We definitely know that there's no faces within these particular pictures, but of course the way in which they're shaped gives us that impression, and that's one of the biggest pitfalls, I think, when it comes to investigating. We need to keep that in mind. And I do to this day. It's really difficult sometimes, and I'll see something that looks like a face in a mirror or a face in a window. It's very, very difficult. So yeah, keep it in mind. It could actually be this. So being aware that your brain is going to do this is very, very important as well. Okay, second one. This is actually part of a video that I actually have created for a course that I was giving out. And it talks about the term confirmation bias. Now, it may seem a bit boring and brainy, but understanding that your beliefs from the way that you've been brought up actually influence how you investigate is really important. So the first video I'm going to show is very, very small, and it talks a bit about what actually confirmation bias is. The second video we'll actually go into, and again, only about a minute, if that, we'll go into how that actually is affecting us as paranormal investigators. So this will take 1 minute to 1 minute or two, couple of seconds to set up. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it when it starts to chime in.
Confirmation bias, what is it? It's a psychological term which falls under the heading of cognitive biases. It explains how people interpret information that confirms ideas, thoughts, and beliefs. People actively look for reasoning that fits their beliefs and ignore reasoning that is traditionally against it. It can affect their perceptions and what they decide to do. But don't be confused with frequency illusion, because this is when, say for instance, you're looking at buying a house in a certain price range and in a certain area. Soon you'll start to notice more houses that are similar to what you are looking for. You are seeing these types of houses all the time, only once you've made this decision. So in short, it's a selective attention. Confirmation bias is finding things that support our ideas. There are many scenarios that confirmation bias can be evident. Think of conspiracy theories. If you believe the 9/11 disaster was planned by the US government and go looking to find information to prove it, you'll find it. So we can be entwined very much within our beliefs. We can unconsciously surround ourselves with people, locations, culture, food, all that fits with our thoughts. And because of this, we avoid situations which can challenge them.
Something to keep in mind, isn't it? So we're all susceptible to it. Nobody is unsusceptible to it. And it's one thing to keep in mind, particularly remember when you go into a public location, you're going to have more confirmation bias based on the knowledge of that place reportedly being haunted. So it's keeping that at the back of your mind. Of course, what do you do then as a paranormal investigator if that is the case? And that's what this is about.
So how does this cognitive behaviour affect paranormal investigating? Everyone has confirmation bias. The people you interview in private and residential cases will, and so do us as paranormal investigators. So take it this particular place. You've been told that it's haunted, and people have given you their recounts of the type of activity that's happened, reportedly in this place. But then you come in and it's dilapidated, falling apart, and in some areas you can't even go into. So it makes you think, if you're already having to hear those stories and you're coming in to try and debunk it, the venue itself can also give rise to confirmation bias just because of the way it looks. So picture this. Something occurs while you're on a location. You're in a darkened room and yourself and another person hear what sounds like a woman crying. First thing that comes to mind, is there anything in the historical information about the location that can support a woman who's very sad? Where did the sound come from? The bedroom. Maybe she missed her husband, or he died while they were young and she's still mourning him. Can you see what's starting to happen? Sometimes knowing the history of a location leads us to confirmation bias. We look for the activity to confirm the history of a place we already know.
Haha, so that's something to keep in mind. We are human beings, and we're going to have these kinds of particular situations where, your beliefs and your thoughts, as I said, when going into, and that's the hardest part, is when, as investigators, we often know about, the history of a location, if it's a public location, and the phenomena and things like that. And so it's very difficult when we walk into a place and something happens and we kind of draw the stories together. I'm really starting to take the angle of, if I'm ever actually working with a team, and I can go to a place and don't know the history, I don't want to know the history until afterwards, but somebody of the location does. I think that's really important as well. And it is actually quite challenging as an investigator to try and go into a place and not know the history. So when it comes to doing an audio recording session, or EVP session as it's commonly known, you've actually got to really dig deep because you haven't got anything to go on. That can kind of be a bit difficult. So that's something to keep in mind too as well. Oh, Damo, you missed out again. That's all right. We still see you live, buddy. So those are the two big pitfalls for me. The first one is visual pareidolia. Keep that in mind. Things are going to look like faces. It's just your body being your body. Just understanding that instead of getting crabby at it I think is the best thing, being aware of it. And also with confirmation bias, we're going in with our own belief set. Particularly if you go in with something and saying, yeah, that's haunted. You've already confirmed in your mind that particular location might actually possibly be haunted without actually even having started the investigation. And again, that can be very difficult with public locations because you're going there because of the possible activity. But again, be as objective as you can. I always think it's really important to be a certain shade of grey when it comes to investigating. You've got to lean a little bit one way, a little bit the other, but try and stay in the middle as much as possible, and you won't miss out on anything much, if at all. But yes, I'd love to know your thoughts. Again, use the comment section down below there. What's your advice? What are the two pitfalls that you think, things that people should just be enormously aware of when it comes to paranormal investigating, that you've learned over the years or you've learned recently? I'd love to know what they are. Use the comment section. Sharing is caring, by all means. Hi, Cara, beautiful. But yeah, and as I said, it's knowledge, and it's good to share as well. So do take care, everybody. As I said, love to know your thoughts on the information I provide. If you want to add comments to that as well, I'm more than happy to hear that too. Do take care. Thank you so much for watching.